y'all doing today? How is everyone doing today? I'm gonna wait for people to get on up in here. We finna have us a good old time today. How y'all doing today? What up, DeMarcus? Okay, listen. I came in a little earlier because we need to have a discussion first. So y'all see my face, right? So y'all know I got something cooking. Let me tell you what. Today, old Jay Morrison is about to have a dividend day discussion. Now, y'all know he ain't paid. The Tulsa Real Estate Fund did not pay dividends on October 1st, as stated. So, in light of that, right, it appears as though Jay Morrison wants to have a discussion about that. Of course, I've got access to the discussion. So, what that means is this. We are all going to get the opportunity to watch it together. And from there, I am going to come on and have a discussion. Now, here's the other thing. The Tulsa Real Estate Fund actually released a dividend analysis sheet. This discussion that we're going to watch together from Jay Morrison, right? I'm going to turn on a link in my link tree, and everybody's going to get access to the dividend analysis so we can discuss it together. That's what's cooking today. Y'all already know I stay ready. So, give me a second here. Let's see here. Let me hit that button right there, see what happened. Oh, we there. So I'm going to do my best not to talk too much and just let this happen. And then I'm going to have a follow-up discussion on this after the fact. I got to be honest with you. I don't think this is going to go an hour. Because what really can you say honestly? You didn't pay a dividend. The fund has no revenue. You've lost over $1 million and charged almost another $1 million in fees. So there's no money to pay a dividend. I'm confused. You have not made a profit. So I'm very interested to see how he's going to spin this, right? And try to make this make sense, right? But again, we got 1-0. Okay, it's time for him to come on now. So we're going to see what happens. But after this, I'm going to come back on live and I'm going to break down the discussion that we're getting ready to see right here. So we'll see what happens. Now, of course, it's 6 p.m. And Mr. Jay Morrison, Mr. Swaggy, the young Malcolm, as he allegedly calls himself, is not on time. He's not on time, y'all. He wasn't on time last time. Now, I would guess that this is probably going to be pre-recorded. Because you got to have, we figured out that he's not really going to go live. He's not going to do that. Because he don't want to have to answer the real tough questions. But, I'm trying to understand why it is 6:01 and Mr. Swaggy ain't here yet. For all y'all who just joined, this is the Tulsa Real Estate Fund Dividend Day discussion. As you are aware, Mr. Swaggy P, Mr. Swaggy, Mr. allegedly young Malcolm, the first to ever do it, the baddest in the land, said that that the Tulsa Real Estate Fund would be paying dividends on or before October 1st. Let me check the date. Yes, it's October 6th. And from what I understand from a few investors, it ain't happened. Okay, here we go. We about to go. Ha-ha! What's he doing? Oh, it's already going left.
Hey, peace family, and welcome to TREF Talks Tuesdays, our first Tuesday communications with our fund members. I'm fund founder, which all you should know, Jay Morrison. This is a members only private transparency update and discussion that we do monthly. Tonight's discussion is dividend review, which we'll be talking about in just a few seconds. So I'm going to allow members who are streaming in live to kind of get an opportunity to come on in to the chat, and we will also have an opportunity to send out a replay for those of you who missed this. There'll be multiple emails and communications going out for a replay for tonight's Tulsa Real Estate Fund TREF Talks Tuesdays. Right. So thank you all for joining. I look forward to making it concise, condensed. We'll offer some Q&A opportunity if we get a chance to. And wanted to discuss what we call Dividend Day, which we're super excited to work our way towards. For anyone who's watching this, again, if you are not a Tulsa Real Estate Fund member, we urge you to log off because this is a members only live stream, members only recording. This is for the private members of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, those who are co-owners and partners with us. We know some have taken the liberty to figure out a login and stream it live and do things. We ask for professional courtesy. We ask for just the proper energy and us being responsible in keeping our investor live stream just for our investors, like a sophisticated or civilized organization should do. So let's dive in. King Gene, we're going to scroll down and get into the nuts and bolts. So again, if you all search your emails, you'll see a link that says Dividend Day Analysis, and you too can go over this, what you'll see behind me with me on your own, or you can obviously watch what we have here on the screen. I'm going to go through it line by line, and then we'll take some Q&A today. But every one of our fund members, to your email in which you became a member, have received this document as we go through the process and really teach, as all of us are going through this process for the first time in regards to preparing for Dividend Day. Now, we hoped and anticipated and projected that it could be as early as October 1st. We project for the fourth quarter. We did mention that. I know, it's not everyone, but a few folks have asked, hey, what about October 1st? In that statement that we said in our TREF Talks, we said we're targeting October 1st or the fourth quarter, and we said it was a projection. So let me make a clear disclaimer. Everything that I say today and moving forward when it comes to finances, payouts, projections, they are just that. They are projections. We cannot determine everything in the market. We cannot determine the outcome of every asset. This is just, again, us Finance 101 and us making sure that we are giving ourselves some room and some liberty for things to happen. So we anticipate still, or we project still for fourth quarter, which is this quarter, October through December. We're going to get through a little bit of details in just a second. So King Gene, can we scroll down real quick, please? All right, so in your document, family, we're going to start with the glossary piece. Just defining what a dividend is. A dividend is a distribution of profits by a company to its investors, right? So that's a little different than a capital distribution or just a cash payout of your principal. This is based on the profits of the company to its investors or members. Now, when it comes to dividend day, declaring a dividend, here's the actual phases of how it starts. So these are things that we're going through with our accounting team, compliance, treasury, all that, and you guys know we have to follow the guidelines. So the first part of what happens on dividend day or preparing for dividend day, excuse me, it's not just the day, it's actually the time frame of which it happens. We're going to go over that time frame. So first what happens is we declare a date, right? So 30 to 60 days prior to the payment date. The payment date comes after. But the fund manager, dividends will be officially announced by the fund manager on the declaration date, right? The declaration date is the date which the fund manager announces and approves the payment of dividend. That's the payment of profits to its investors. The declaration includes the size of the dividend being issued and outlines the record and the payment date, which I will also explain in just a second. So the first thing that happens right now, we are, based on our assets and where we see our fund, we are gearing up and ramping up for a hopeful and projected dividend payout, right? So that's something we've been working towards. Let's keep in mind that for dividend to get paid, it has to happen. It's not for the way our subscription is written and the way the treasury part works is that we have to pick a period, right? A month, a quarter, or whatever. A period is established, that month, that 3 months, that quarter, and based on profitability of that month or profitability of that quarter, and that's net profits, so that means after paying all expenses, the profits left over, the fund manager and our team, we can then declare a dividend payout and a dividend day once those profits supersede that for that quarter or for that month. And we'll talk about a little bit more of that as we get into our portfolio later on. So as we receive towards our gross profits, but they have not yet in a month or quarter period superseded exponentially enough profits, net profits, to pay out a dividend, which is, again, what we're working towards. And that comes through some of the maturity of our long-term investments. So once we see those net profits in that period, we then can confer and declare it's time for a dividend day payout. What happens next is we set a record date. So the record date is, for us, is typically going to be between 15 to 30 days after the declaration. So what the record date is basically a timestamp after our declaration that says, hey, only those who are in the fund at this date, because there's still folks who have outstanding balances or AMLs or still have to get paperwork verified, etc. So the record date says that only those who are fully subscribed to the fund as members by this date, by this record date, can be eligible for a dividend. So the record date is a date on which the investor must be listed on the fund's books in order to receive a dividend. The list established on the record date that tells the exact investors eligible to receive a dividend or distribution, right? So now we have payment date. So this happens in 3 phases. Declaration first, then we have record date. Hey, you got to be in by this time, fully in and committed. And then we have payment date. The date on which the fund's transfer agent, Computershare, issues the dividend or distribution to investors' accounts. So that's when the actual payment actually happens. So after declaration, after record, then there's also a payment date established, which is, usually 30 to 60 days from declaration, that says, hey, this is the day that funds will be issued out by our third-party transfer agent, which is Computershare, right? You all have those accounts. So let's talk about the dividend process, right? Just a quick little breakdown. We refer to it as a dividend day, but it's a process that culminates in a dividend payout. So dividend day is really the payment date. That's the actual day it's paid. But dividend day, or the declaration of dividend, is really a process, as we just explained. So in that process begins with the fund establishing or acquiring assets, which we have, with the intent to have those assets appreciate in value, sell or refinance for profits, provide ongoing streams of profitable rental income, and or provide ongoing streams of profitable interest income of mortgages, or provide transactional income of fees, points, interest, balloons, payments, etc. Right? So what that is really describing is our fund obviously goes out and we acquire or invest in or we establish assets in our portfolio, and those assets in our portfolio typically do one of those four things we mentioned there, and I threw refinancing in there in number one. It's another way we can bring back capital and profits is through refinancing. So simply, the fund needs profits producing assets to pay dividends, which is what we're constantly working towards. For a new fund, the process takes time and constant work to acquire, stabilize, rehab, manage, underwrite, securitize, refinance, sell, or conduct other real estate investment functions to produce a revenue of at profitable levels. So essentially saying, as we'll go through this process, we're going to look at some of our portfolio. It takes time to underwrite, which means to vet, to analyze, evaluate the properties in which we're going to either lend on, acquire, participate in. It takes time to securitize those, collateralize those. It takes time to stabilize those, rehab those, develop those. It takes time to rent, to appreciate, to sell, refinance, all those real estate functions that we've all been going through. It takes time to do that. So you'll see a timeline below that illustrates what we spoke about a little earlier. So in this timeline here, we got declaration date, right? We'll hopefully, as we assess our assets, we're going to get to that in a second. We're waiting for certain assets to mature or to be dispositioned or sold. As they are sold, we would then evaluate the profits versus our expenses and see what level of net profits we have, which is, again, your profits after expenses. And then we would hopefully in fourth quarter or very, very soon make a declaration date to say, hey, we've established the profit period and it's here. And then we will establish a record date 15 to 30 days later, which means everybody has to be in by this date in order to be eligible for the profits we established on our declaration date. And then after that, our transfer agent and our administrative team do their process of 15,000 investors or however many are in our fund. They go through that process of making sure everyone's shares are accounted for, prorated their interest, and then they go into their payment date 30 to 60 days out from our declaration date, right? It could be as early as 30, could be up to 60, just depending on how much admin we have and what record date we choose. And so that's when this payment date is actually our dividend date from the time of declaration. Just so everyone understands the process in which it takes. I wish it were as easy as, hey, we got some profits, send it. But it's also the element of mailing out dividends versus having them automatically draft into your account and to making sure everyone's account is actually activated and funded. And there's so many just administrative and technology functions that go behind the scenes to this whole process. And the team is working very, very diligent on that. It's something we're working on since the earlier part of this year. So the actual dividend payment process starts with the fund manager declaring a dividend, as we spoke about, and announcing the record and planned payment date, right? So that's a projected planned date. As previously stated, the fund's goal is to be in position to announce a dividend payout or payout during Q4, quarter 4 of this year, which is the quarter we're in right now. October, November, December is the fourth quarter of the year. All investors who are investors of record on the record date will receive a dividend payout. So again, we announce everyone that's in by a record date will receive a dividend payout. The amount of the dividend payout will be influenced and determined by the following: the fund's period revenue and asset liquidation rates. So that means whatever period we chose to analyze our profits, whatever that rate of profits is, that's going to determine how much or how big the dividend payout is, the fund's net profit during that period, and the investor's ownership share. So for those who have 10 shares, your dividend payout would be different than those who have 100 shares, right? So it's prorated per your shares. The subsequent pages, which we're going to be going through, provide a basic step-by-step dividend pay analysis that goes into determining the stability, affordability, and timing of a dividend. So we're going to look at our assets and show you guys, again, in full transparency, where we see the best Q4 dividend opportunities happening. Some of the assets assets, Q1, Q2, or later in the year, longer-term assets of 2021. But we'll look at Q4 opportunities. Let's review the illustration so we're clear on how we determine and fund the dividend. All right, we can scroll, Gene. So this is really cool, and I thank our team for putting this together for us. It gives a flow chart that I can kind of hopefully easily break down for what the process is like. These are the many moving parts behind the scenes that our fund staff and our fund management team go through on behalf of you, our members. So how we determine when it's time to pay a dividend, this is a great overview, top line, level one analysis, right? So one, if we're still raising capital, we have to say, if the answer to if we're still raising capital is yes, we have to stop. We can't get to a dividend payout if we're still raising capital. As we mentioned in previous TREF talks and other communications, it borders a compliance infraction or certainly compliance yellow flag to be raising capital and still paying out a dividend. So our advice has been no, if we're raising capital, no dividend. So if the answer is yes, if the answer is yes to still raising capital, then we have to stop the process right there, which is what has been our case prior to May of 2020. But now that we stopped our capital raise, so we're still raising capital? No, we are not raising capital. So we carry on down the process. Fund has revenue-producing assets. If we have no revenue-producing assets, then we have to stop. If everything's in development or if everything is flat because of COVID, because of this, because of that, then we can't pay out a dividend without producing revenue-producing assets. But if the answer is yes, which it is yes, then we go to our next phase of our flow chart. So if the fund has is not raising capital, has assets, fundraising assets, yes, then is it the projected revenue will produce period net profits. So that's the other thing. If we have assets, which we have assets now, which are producing revenue, but they have to produce enough net profits per our given period. And so the answer has been no so far to that, which is why we haven't paid a dividend yet, and we haven't paid a dividend yet because we were still raising capital. So now that we're not raising capital, we get into a point of liquidating our assets. Some are being dispositioned for sale or refinance to then get to a point where we have that profitability. And once we have that profitability, and the answer is yes, through our asset evaluation, which will move to phase two, as those assets are profitable, then we are in position for dividend payout if they're profitable during a given period that we establish. King Gene, can you scroll down for us, please? Right there, sir. Thank you. So level two analysis, let's go look at a little bit of our portfolio, right? So asset evaluation. So these assets here are determined, you guys all have this document, right? It's in your email, are determined as long-term hold assets. So we have our Legacy Center commercial space. The stabilization completed, no, so we must stop. So here we are still stabilizing this asset post-COVID. We had great momentum after our grand opening. Less than a month later, COVID hit the scene. For several months, we had to shut down our building and ramping back up to get, again, to full occupancy and full stabilization, full profitability. We're also looking at opportunities where a refinance might come in place or other options and what we can do with our commercial space to make it as most profitable to the fund as possible. So again, if an asset is not completed in stabilization and not turning enough net profits, then we have to say stop here for Q4, but maybe again long-term and other quarters down the line, this asset can be of a profitable piece, net profit for our quarterly or whatever period we choose that payout. So Legacy Center is again still being stabilized, so not set for Q4 participation to our dividend. Next long-term asset, the Oaks 98 units. The stabilization is complete of our 98 units, 2 blocks of rental properties. There is sufficient equity there. In that property, we are looking to disposition. And again, as much as I want to be a magician, I am not. And the market dictates real estate assets and how they move. No matter how again, passionate Jay Morrison is, no matter how much intention that I or we have and what we want, we are still held to the market, how it moves. Now, I tell us things in transparency just to be transparent, but I also need us to level the playing field and not hold me to things that I'm saying are projections, not hold me to those in stone, I want to say, right? Because they're projections, meaning that it can move. So we have indications as we're looking to, again, dispose of our 98 units and stabilize. We've gained about $1 million in value from the assets. There was a lot of expenses poured into it, so that's not net value, but it has appreciated $1 million. So we are looking at some profits from a sale, and we are told that it is a ripe market to sell, and that sale could happen in the fourth quarter, right? That is possible. That's what our real estate agents have indicated to us, but I cannot guarantee that or, right, make magic happen, but we will push our best. So there is an opportunity with equity and in this quarter for the Macon 98 units to lend towards our Q4 dividend payout because it is in line with Q4 disposition. All right, cool.
It'd still be at a debt operating loss.
Collateralized assets and debt. So our Cincinnati, Ohio, we have a 3-part residential mortgage bundle. We've been receiving residual income on that from interest payments, right, and transaction payments. That projected liquidation is not less than 3 months, so that does not play into our fourth quarter payouts. Although one of the assets is on the market, it could be sold at any time and could surprise us, but again, we want to be conservative in our projections. So then we have our Myro Street 7 units, right? That is also in the process of being, it's debt that we have, but so backing up, Cincinnati, we don't own it, but it will be sold in enough to pay us off what is owed to us. And once we're paid off, then again, that's profits. On Myro Street, again, another debt collateralized property we have a mortgage on. On that property, it is in target for, the loan is in good standing, and it is in target for a Q4 potential dividend payout. That sponsor just has a few moves they have to make in order to be in position to refinance us out. They will refinance out our loan, and then we wouldn't take the profits from that opportunity. And again, that could contribute towards our Q4 dividend payout in the given period that we decide. Our Nashville single family projected, again, it's being stabilized, but is not in position for a Q4 disposition to loan to our payout. It could be for Q1 of 2021 or Q2 or whenever that is. But again, we're right now focused on Q4 dividend payout opportunities. All right, let's scroll up, Gene, a little bit, please. All right, right there should do. And then we have our Parsons student housing. Again, that is debt that we have on student housing units that right now is not in position for a dividend payout for Q4, right? But all these assets are receiving, we are receiving interest income from the mortgages every month. So we are getting income from these assets. These are not non-income producing assets. These are income producing assets from a mortgage interest perspective, fees, etc., but just not in position for Q4 dividend payout. Knapp Street 14 units. That is a second mortgage we have on a property in which we did make a profit from earlier in the year. That is not in position for a dividend payout just yet. They have some time on their mortgage, but they are paying their mortgage payments. Then we have our transactional assets. So we have our Buckhead, Georgia single family. It's a property that we had to foreclose on. That rehab is complete. There is sufficient equity, and that property is in target for our Q4 dividend payout. And then adding towards our dividend payout income, we have our one-day loan product called transactional funding, which many of you guys have been hearing about. That is a profitable transactional product in which we've already made thousands with. It contributes towards our monthly revenue. And again, in that given period, that any of the other assets are
boy, I'm gonna rip this apart in the follow-up. Oh my God!
From our transactional funding, on top of the disposition of the assets we mentioned, where that it can contribute towards our Q4 dividend payout. And essentially, all we receive contributes towards the payout because remember, we have expenses, then we get lease income, we get mortgage interest income, we get all transactional funding income coming in. All that income compiles to supersede our expenses, right? So that gross income supersedes our expenses, and then we get to net income or net profit, right? Once we service our expenses. So everything here that we receive income from contributes towards us beating or superseding our expenses during our given period, which makes us be in position for a dividend payout. So I don't want to over belabor the point. We're going to open up for some Q&A, but I want to, again, just lay out and roll out what's happening in the portfolio, where are we at Q4 target dividend payout. Now, mind you, all these assets and opportunities have many moving parts that your fund management team can't control. Every buyer, every seller, every realtor, every title agent, everything that's involved in a deal, right? So, for instance, our Buckhead property, this was the property I was speaking about in August, where I anticipated it being sold in August because we had multiple offers on it, and we had all the indication it would be sold, and I felt that we were in position for it to be sold and offer enough dividend or cash disposition to be able to make a dividend payout by October 1st or the fourth quarter, right? That those contracts on it fell apart, negotiations happened, and it didn't sell immediately. We have new offers on it, and we're working on that asset being sold. But I want to give you real context and transparency that this was the asset in which we had every indication that...
Sorry, y'all, I'm doing this with one hand.
Should have been and could have been sold this summer, in position for us to have a different conversation today, and it already being within the realm of the dividend payout. So now, again, we had to go back to the drawing board, relisting it. We did some sprucing up, looking to get better value for it, and got some new offers on it. So now it falls within the rest of the targeted assets for Q4 dividend payout. And those are things that we are working on the portfolio management side, all while we are still facilitating transactional funding, all while we're still underwriting and looking to participate in new deals and opportunities that are happening in the market. So with the current capital we have, we are still real estate investing. We are still looking for certain syndication opportunities and JV and partnership opportunities, and we're still managing and looking to stabilize our legacy center post-COVID and bring that facility while we're looking to dispose the other assets, while still doing investor relations, communicating with you all, while still doing our next year's tax. So all that's happening, plus technology and everything else. So all that's happening under your fund, managing under our leadership. And so now I want to open up for a Q&A from any of our fund partners.
All right, give me a second, y'all. I need to put the phone down so I can type this with two hands. I type much faster with two. Hold on a second, y'all.
We cannot do primary residence financing. That's a big legal compliance as a private lender. We cannot do, based on banking laws, private primary residence loans. Sorry about that. People ask about the process for someone else taking over shares for someone else. Okay. Yeah, so the process for kind of the secondary market for share swap, that has to have to do with investor relations. So if you guys email info@tulsarealestatefund.com, maybe put in the subject line share swap or something to that effect, our team can give you what the directions are for that opportunity.
Oh, I gotta sign up to do... Okay, y'all, you can't even send anything without signing up first, so I ain't gonna go that far. But I'm gonna break this down myself in a follow-up, because
want to give a clear line of what it actually takes any Reg A Tier 2 fund of our kind to participate and make way towards dividend.
O'Reilly asked, what's the new projected payout?
We don't have a new projected payout date. We are projecting for the fourth quarter, right? For the fourth quarter is our hopes to be able to sometime this quarter make that declaration date. So, Jen, can you scroll up a little bit? To the first page a little bit. Right there. So, yeah, right now our goal, Queen, is to get towards our declaration date. That declaration date can't be established until our assets have been liquidated, right, and disposed of and have profits in that period. What we were hoping for in Q4 and for October 1st, which I mentioned the other asset.
Yeah, I got to sign up with an email just to be able to send the question. Ain't nobody finna do all that.
I wanted to kind of early give us something to look forward to and again, project what we thought could happen by then. So now I want to make sure that we're doing it more measured and making sure everyone understands the process behind it and that it's not just a quick overnight thing. But we are projecting for Q4, if we are fortunate enough in this market, in this climate, election season, financial climate, COVID climate, to have these assets dispositioned in a time frame that we think.
Okay, Alan asked, can we reinvest dividends?
We have not found a simple process to reinvest dividends. So if you couldn't hear the question, Queen Latoya asked, can we reinvest dividends? And we'd like you to. We're working on that. I tried to say things for sympathy or empathy, but there's a lot of technology, compliance, and other things behind the scenes that make things that we want to happen just challenging as a new fund, especially as a fund that has so many partners. That's been our biggest challenge, is with 15,000 partners. We've been challenged because many of the standard operators or third-party administration groups, they won't work with us and really can't work with us because of our volume. So things like...
Ooh, I'm going to speak on that in a minute. Oh, wow.
Right now, we're trying to prioritize just getting a dividend out, right, to you guys.
That is incorrect.
We're looking into that. Hopefully we'll have some updates on it soon, but right now, nothing firm on that. Let me also say a point, too, is that we're going to get more into it in our next TREF talks, but I want to make just a point to our fund. When we launched the fund, our goal was a $50 million capital raise. And so our business plan was based off us raising $25 to $50 million. And with that much capital, the kind of assets we would invest in, right? Hotels, apartment complexes, lending capital, all that. So when we started with our initial capital raise, we were performing our capital raise functions, or our business model functions, based off of our business plan. Now that the dust has settled and we've raised a little over $11 million, not $50 million, our fund investment philosophy has to make some pivots, right? Because you can $11 million fund. And with a fund of 15,000 investment partners, it's very expensive to operate from an administrative perspective. Now, that's not a big burden if you're doing that from a 30, 40, or $50 million fund with the same staff. But when you have 15,000 investors, but you have staff like you got a $50 million fund, which you can't even shrink down because of so many investors, but you only have $11 million, it's very challenging for us to make sure that we are investing in assets that don't have too much risk, but can give us the kind of profitability we need to make dividend and make good on the fund. Man. But while we're also juggling the expense of just a very robust organization that is supporting so many investment partners and moving parts, but off a thankful $11 million capital raise. But from a ratio perspective of funds, typically when you got 15,000 investors, I mean, folks are running $150 million, $500 million, billion-dollar funds, right? So for us, we got a fund volume of members and partners like a multi-$100 million fund, but we are $11 million fund and capital raise, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Just kind of give you guys an understanding of what we are seeing, what we're challenged with, and what we're adopting and addressing as we move forward towards success and dividend.
Tim Simpson asks, I email investor relations and Daniel emailed me back. Haven't heard anything else about my refund. I emailed several times.
Okay, if Nathaniel emailed you, I don't know what he emailed you, but he is part of our investor relations team. You certainly could do a follow-up. We can take your name right now if we can, and we can cross-reference that and certainly have our team reach out. We have been what's called a redemption. It's not a refund. In an investment, you're not making a purchase. This is for everybody's just knowledge. You're not making a purchase like at a store where you're buying a booklet or something. And an investment, you want your shares or your investment redeemed or redemption. And so we do have our redemption policy, and our team has worked diligently on helping to process any redemption request. So we will take your info, Queen, and forward that on for sure.
Keith Davis asks, wouldn't it be more profitable for the fund to focus its attention on purchasing properties in foreclosure or being auctioned off for profitability?
That is a part of our focus, Keith. Absolutely. Our focus is distressed assets, under market, undervalued assets. We are in talks with different municipalities. We're in talk with private developers, private landholders, etc., about those foreclosure, off-market, or undervalued opportunities. That is part of our profitability. But that also speaks to what I said, our initial fund philosophy, right? We started out doing more lending, which you're seeing we're getting the mortgage income is just not significant enough from a monthly revenue standpoint per our fund overhead. But that was also, again, based on a business model of us having raised more capital, which is what we anticipated. So now, and it's also, we have to also take into consideration the hitches, the glitches that we've had even coming through COVID. So in being astute entrepreneurs, we have made a pivot to get more focused on that residential foreclosure distressed asset market, which we are. Thank you. And they still take time as well, still become profitable. King G.
All right, we're going to go ahead and end it here, and I'm going to pivot because he's just doing a Q&A at this point, and a lot of what he's saying is stupid. So I'm going to close this.
Let's repeat that one more time.
Let me a second here. Let me turn around. Okay, so while they're in my mind, I wanna kill a couple of things that he said before I shut down and come back, right? So number one, he said reinvesting a dividend is difficult because there's so many investors. Reinvesting a dividend is not difficult no matter how many investors you have, because when you have a fund or you have any type of situation where you're taking other people's money, be it through a deposit, an investment, whatever it is, the fact of the matter is you have to have a ledger balance for everybody, and there's supposed to be the ability for people to get a quarterly statement or a monthly statement or a periodic statement on what their balance is in that specific account, and what the profits or losses is for their specific account based on their capital investment, right? So if you pay out a dividend and they want to reinvest the dividend because you've declared a dividend and therefore are going to pay them 8% based on their capital investment or based on profits or some other metric, then what they would do is, if they wanted to reinvest the dividend, they would notify you of that and you would credit that 8% to their account, and their actual investment amount would just increase in the account. It's a simple ledger thing. It's not hard to do. So let's just start there, right? So that's a lie. Now, As it relates to administrators not wanting to work with him because the fund is so small, having third-party administrators and, that thing right there that he said about, third-party administrators don't really want to work with us. A lot of them won't work with us because we're so small. That's not true at all. You could have $1 million in assets under management and a third-party administrator will take you on. The reason why third-party administrators don't want to work with him, it's not, and trust me, I have experience in this, so I know, right? It's not because his fund is small, right? It's because they've looked at his documents and they are concerned about the prospect of fraud, and because of that, right, they do not want their name, their credibility, and issues associated with being they don't want to be associated with him, because when this blows up, because anybody that's got any real experience doing this, right, took in one look at the documents and seen for the greater than not likelihood of where this is going to end up going. So if you as a third party administrator or as a major law firm or anything like that are associated with this, it does brand damage and reputational harm to you because you were tied to that, right? So I wanted to cover those two things because those were things that stuck out, near the end of that I wanted to make sure that I broke down really, really, really well, right? But what I'm going to do, let me see, what time is it? Okay, it's 6:42. I came on at 6:55. So what I'm going to do is actually turn on the link in Linktree. And everybody's going to be able to access that document that he pulled up, that he was reading from on the screen. I'm actually going to, pull up that document. I'm going to turn on the link right now, so you guys are able to access that document. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk through this document, and I'm going to show you why, a dividend, an 8% dividend. And first of all, I'm going to break down how a dividend works, right? And what needs to happen for there to be a dividend. And then I'm going to show you why it is that an 8% dividend may never happen at this point, right? So give me a couple of minutes to go ahead and activate the link tree. And then from there, what I'm going to do is, because it's already there. I just need to turn it on. So... And then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to come back on and we're going to do some numbers here. I like to take it by the numbers. I think numbers are better. But just for the record, right? So, and I'm going to clarify this right now, right? Because I'm pretty sure, right? I am pretty sure, that this video is going to surface and Mr. Morrison will see this. So let me clarify this for the record right now. The truth of the situation is this. While that might be a private TREF investor type of situation, the reality of the situation actually works this way. If an investor is unsure of what it is that they're going to be hearing, or they don't have sufficient knowledge on the subject to be able to properly vet what the fund manager is saying, they have the right to bring on, right, someone that they feel is competent and knowledgeable enough to be able to understand the various nomenclatures that are being used, to be able to break down the situation and explain it to them properly so they have proper understanding and context of the discussion. And so my ability to be able to access the live stream is because I have specifically been asked to be a party to the discussion to help the individual that has asked me to help them understand the nomenclature or the words being laid out and the concepts being laid out. So while it may be a private TREF situation, I have the right to be in there. And by the way, before you get mad and upset, I live in New York, sir. This is a single party consent state. So if I agree singly to record something and stream it, all it takes is one party consent. I've consented, and that being the case, right? There's nothing you can do about me streaming and recording this private situation. So one thing about me, the difference between me and you, Mr. Morrison, so before you waste your time, the difference between me and you, Mr. Morrison, I'm very familiar with the structure, strategy, principles, and things that you need to employ to be able to do the types of things that I do. I make sure that I check the boxes the right way, right? And I make sure that I'm fully covered, right? So just in case you thought that you might want to send your little happy time lawyers, your little poop butt lawyers, just in case you thought you might want to fire them up, I got lawyers too. I got those too. So, so that's never a worry for me. And I know that I'm well within the right side of the law. So you would be completely and totally and utterly wasting your time. So that's that. So we just gonna put that out there, for the record. I just want to get that out there for the record so you don't waste your time embarrassing yourself out this way. This ain't Georgia. I ain't none of your investors. This ain't that. So don't try me. Like, don't keep that stuff down there. Don't bring that to New York. You get ate up around here. We do this for real. So lay it down. Anyway, with that in mind, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for a second. Give me I'm gonna pop back on by about 7 o'clock. Oh yeah. I had a little time today. I had a little time today. Yes, sir. Like, I was like, I make a little time for this one. So in any event, listen, I'm gonna pop back on at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's like in 13 minutes. It's like in 13 minutes. Y'all give me 13 minutes, right? To make sure that this link is right. You know what I mean? Make sure that y'all have access to this document. You know what I mean? And all of that, right? Make sure I got access to the document. And, because I want y'all to be able to look at this document as I pull it up and go through it with y'all, right? We're going to do this by the numbers. This is easy. I want y'all to know that I hadn't even fully read the document yet because I got it. I was so busy and I got it so quick. It came to me right, there wasn't a lot of time and I was really busy anyway. But this is easy to break down. This is nothing. I've done a breakdown of the overall fund. So breaking down why dividend won't happen is a no-brainer. Like, I knew October 1st was going to come and go. Bro, I knew that was going to happen. I knew it wasn't going to be no money. Yo, this is too easy. This guy is comical. Anyway, listen. So, 12 minutes. So, listen. 12 minutes. I'm going to save this video, though. I'm going to save this video. For sure. This one finna be out there. You guarantee that. And this one going to hit my YouTube channel. Oh, yes, it is. Anyway, listen, check me out, right? Give me, well, at this point in time, 11 minutes. Yeah, 11 minutes. Give me 11 minutes, y'all. I'll be right back. Yo, y'all, bring it back now. Bring it on back. We finna do this right. We finna get right. So, give me 11 minutes. I'll be right back. As always, like, subscribe, share, follow. Tell anybody you know about this that could benefit from the information. More eyes on the content. The more people we can benefit. Let's get it. I'll see y'all in 11 minutes. Holla.